The golden age of Greece, the birthplace of democracy and Western philosophy, was built on a foundation of lies. The marble temples, the legendary victories, and the celebrated freedom were all underwritten by their most hated enemy. While Athens and Sparta drenched the Greek world in blood, fighting for supremacy, the real winner wasn't a Greek city-state at all. It was the Persian Empire, which conquered Greece not with armies, but with something far more insidious, a river of gold. This is the story of how Persia turned its wealth into the ancient world's most devastating weapon. When Cyrus the Great founded the Achaemenid Empire, he created a military juggernaut, but it was his successor, Darius the Great, who forged its most enduring weapon. While his predecessors were conquerors, Darius was a visionary administrator, derided by some as a mere shopkeeper. He understood that true power wasn't just in taking territory, but in controlling its wealth. He standardized weights, measures, and most importantly, currency. He introduced the daric, a gold coin of incredible purity, stamped with the image of a royal archer. This wasn't just money, it was propaganda in your pocket, a constant reminder of the great king's power. From India to Egypt, a steady stream of tribute, gold, silver, and exotic goods flowed into the Persian treasuries at Susa and Persepolis, creating a stockpile of wealth the world had never seen. This unimaginable fortune was about to become the fuel for a new kind of war. Initially, Persia's attempts to subdue the fiercely independent Greek city-states were clumsy and reliant on brute force. During the Ionian Revolt, they tried to buy loyalty and sow discord, but their strategy was unsophisticated. The subsequent invasions, ending in shocking defeats at Marathon and Salamis, taught the Persians a brutal lesson. Their massive armies could be beaten by small, determined forces. A new strategy was needed, one that exploited the Greeks' greatest weakness, themselves. The Persians realized that Greek city-states hated each other more than they feared a foreign invader. Their constant rivalries, their political corruption, and their endless need for funding were vulnerabilities waiting to be exploited. The era of mass invasion was over. The age of the golden arrow had begun. The turning point came during the Peloponnesian War, the decades-long death struggle between Athens and Sparta. As the two superpowers bled each other dry, Persia saw its opportunity. A Spartan king named Agesilaus would later complain he was driven out of Asia Minor, not by a Persian army, but by 30,000 archers, a direct reference to the darics being used to bribe his Greek allies to turn against him. This became Persia's new doctrine. Why send soldiers to die when you could send gold to make your enemies kill each other? The Persian satraps, or governors, in Anatolia, Tissaphernes and Pharnabazus became the paymasters of this proxy war. They were rivals themselves competing for the king's favor, and they used the Greek conflict as their personal chessboard. The manipulation was masterful in its cynicism. When the Athenian navy was a threat, the Persian satrap Tissaphernes struck a deal with the Spartan commander Lysander. He offered enormous subsidies to build and man a Spartan fleet capable of challenging Athens at sea. Persian gold paid the wages of Spartan rowers and funded the construction of ships that would ultimately starve Athens into submission. The Spartans, who prided themselves on their austerity and martial purity, eagerly accepted the blood money from the very empire they claimed to be fighting for Greek freedom. They were so desperate to destroy their rival that they willingly became puppets, their strings pulled by a Persian governor with a bottomless purse. With its new, Persian-funded fleet, Sparta crushed Athens at the Battle of Aegospotami and tore down its defensive walls, ending the war. But the moment Sparta stood victorious, Persian strategy shifted in a stunning reversal. A dominant Sparta was just as dangerous to Persian interests as a dominant Athens. The goal was never a Spartan victory. It was perpetual Greek weakness. So with Athens now humbled and Sparta flexing its newfound power, Persia simply switched sides. They began funneling gold to their former enemies. The Athenian admiral Conon, now working as a mercenary commander for Persia, was given a massive fleet and a fortune in cash. He sailed back to Greece, smashed the Spartan navy at the Battle of Cnidus, and then did the unthinkable. He used Persian money to rebuild the very long walls of Athens that the Spartans had torn down. The irony was staggering. The symbol of Athenian defiance was being resurrected with the coin of the great king. Persia had funded Athens' destruction, and now it was funding its revival, all to keep the Greeks divided and weak. The final act of this grand strategy was a diplomatic masterstroke known as the King's Peace. By 387 BC, the Greek states were exhausted and bankrupt from decades of fighting each other, a conflict entirely engineered and financed by Persia. The Persian king Artaxerxes II then issued a royal edict, not as a proposal, but as a command. He dictated the terms of peace for all of Greece. The decree declared the Greek cities of Asia Minor to be Persian territory, and forbade any Greek state from forming naval leagues or interfering. Sparta, once Persia's paid ally, was named the enforcer of the king's will, turning them into a glorified police force for a foreign power. It was the ultimate humiliation. After nearly a century of bloodshed to secure their freedom, the Greeks were now taking orders from a Persian monarch. Persia had won the war without fighting a single major battle on Greek soil. They hadn't conquered Greece, they had simply purchased it. The story of Persian gold fundamentally changes how we view ancient Greece. It exposes the celebrated ideals of freedom and independence as deeply compromised, revealing a world where politicians, generals, and entire city-states could be bought and sold. The Persian Empire mastered economic warfare 2 millennia before the term even existed, proving that a nation's treasury could be a more effective weapon than its army. They turned their enemies' greed, ambition, and hatred against them, playing a long game that the squabbling Greeks were too short-sighted to even comprehend. If this story of ancient manipulation shocked you, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more hidden histories. Let us know in the comments below. Which empire do you believe was the true master of strategy in the ancient world?